Greetings. This is Len Gilbert, and thankfully I am still on YouTube. If you've been paying attention to Midwest Fur Fest, one of the most talked about moments there was when a fellow by the name of Magnus, otherwise known as the Confederate fursuit guy, was arrested. There were, unsurprisingly, a lot of rumors swirling about, and the leftists in the fandom, particularly the usual culprits, specifically Dio, made up a big crock of lies that got spread around way farther than they should have. And there were even a number of conservatives, including a conservative media guy who used to write for Breitbart, Ian Miles Chong, who retweeted that garbage, which I just showed on the screen here. So here is what happened, and here's what I'd like to talk about. Magnus was arrested. He was arrested on charges, my understanding is charges of criminal trespass and battery. And of course, Dio had to add the lies about Magnus shouting racist things and dressing up in a so-called Nazi costume. And of course that got put on Dogpatch Press, and the lie has once again gotten halfway around. To add insult to injury, at one point, I think it was a week ago, Patrick Lake, otherwise known as Dogpatch Press, came out with yet another smear piece on Magnus and claimed, of all things, that Magnus was responsible for the Midwest Fur Fest chlorine bomb attack 3 years ago. I'm going to talk about that as well, but first I want to get to some of the other side of the story coming out and what I think about that. I do not know Magnus at all. I've never once spoken to him. Way back when at Anthrocon, a couple of friends of mine wanted to get a picture taken with him. So I tried to reach out to him so my friends could meet him and get a picture taken with his awesome Confederate fursuit, which, by the way, I love. That's one of my favorite fursuits ever. It's got to be one of the most awesome fursuits I've ever seen. Other than that, I don't know anything about Magnus. He seems to be a rather private person. However, he did recently come out with this statement, and I will narrate it as always. And this statement is something that very much contradicts the narrative that we've been told about, and unfortunately too many people have believed. So let's take a look at what Magnus has to say for himself. Okay, here we go. On Friday afternoon, a fursuit made up to look like Baron Hindenburg, pre-World War I, with no relation to any Nazis, was seen entering the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois. The suitor in question walked around the escalators, the hotel lobby, and the open area around the elevators on the second level, making absolutely no references to Adolf Hitler, the Third Reich, and at no time ever uttered any phrases in support of the previous two items. And as an aside, it's pretty sad that someone has to actually come out and clarify that, especially when they didn't. It's ridiculous. The level of hysteria is totally insane. Continuing. After a time, the suit was stopped by what appeared to be members of the Midwest Fur Fest staff. "Excuse me, sir. Would you please come with us?" one of them said. "No, I'm leaving." "Oh, no, you're not," the staff member said. At this point, the said suitor... I hate how this guy writes, but I just, At this point, the said suitor then attempted to leave, and the convention staff attempted to blockade the suitor from leaving the hotel. The suitor then proceeded to force his way past the blockade, which was made more difficult as the blockade was formed by convention staff holding hands. Upon making his way outside, the suitor was then followed by a member of the convention staff into the street, where the suitor collapsed on his own. I wonder why. That's a mystery. And waited for the police to arrive and offer assistance. The suitor was then arrested and detained for a short while and released. He was detained for quite some time. Questions. Does the convention have the right to keep people from leaving the hotel? The answer is no. Where exactly is convention space? Where does it begin and end? Well, that's pretty clear, and it's pretty clear he wasn't in convention space. Why were police not called to deal with the situation beforehand? And this is the side of the story from a first-hand witness. That was from Rob Shokowski. I don't mean to butcher that name. Rob Shokowski, which I guess is not Magnus. I'm not sure if that's his real name or not, but whatever. That's a pretty interesting take, isn't it? It's very, very different from what we were told and from what Dio and a number of other leftists at Midwest Fur Fest said. Which story is true? That's the big question. Well, first of all, the correct way to look at this is to side with the person who is being accused in the absence of evidence of any claim, right? The accused shouldn't have to be forced to prove a negative. That's just insane. So was there any evidence of Magnus running around shouting Nazi slogans? And I hate that word, but I'm just going to use it. No, there isn't. There's reports of it, but there's no video of it. And believe me, if he were doing that, someone would have recorded it instantly. So I don't believe that that's true. Did Magnus go into con space? Well, his account says no, but there are accounts that say he tried to. And, well, there's another account that said, I heard that Magnus was, in addition to being banned from the convention, was also banned from the hotel. That, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't really particularly think it's relevant. I don't believe that he would be banned from the hotel, but if he was banned from the hotel, he would have had to get, for it to be an actual trespass, he would have had to get written or at least verbal notice that he was banned, to my understanding, and I highly doubt that he did. It was basically a he said, she said up until recently when this video came out, and this video really reveals pretty much what happened. Have a look. It's only 30 seconds.
Look at this dude trying to get away from con security. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, but he's getting crazy. Oh, he's fighting him out. He's fighting him out. He's going. There he goes. He's running. He's running. He's running. Oh, he's running.
This video corroborates perfectly with Rob Shokowski's view of what happened. It corroborates perfectly. We see all the things, all the important things that we need to know are in this video. Now, number one, the altercation between Magnus and the MFF staff happened outside of convention space. That is very important. It happened in the hotel itself. And I will explain why that is important in a minute. Number two, the video clearly shows MFF staff blockading the exit and not allowing Magnus to leave. That is also very important because that is false imprisonment. And as much as you might not think that's serious, I believe that's actually a felony. I believe false imprisonment is a felony. I'll provide a link below. I don't want to get into, I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to get any legal argument, but it is a rather serious crime that Midwest Fur Fest committed, and I think they should ultimately be held responsible for it. Here is what we can conclude from this video. We can conclude that Midwest Fur Fest was entirely in the wrong. Even if Magnus was banned from the hotel, which I am dubious about. Maybe he was, but I'm dubious about it. Even if he was banned from that hotel, Midwest Fur Fest staff had absolutely no authority to detain him or kick him out so long as he was outside of con space. If he's in the hotel but outside of con space, the only people who can remove him are agents of the hotel, not the convention. The volunteers and the security people at the convention have zero jurisdiction once you get out of con space, and very clearly that was taken outside of con space. So they have no right to do what they did. And that is the big issue that I have with this. Number one, they don't have a right to kick him out of the hotel, number one. And number two, regardless of anything, the staff of Midwest Fur Fest certainly does not have a right to blockade someone from leaving, period. They don't have the right to do that. They're not law enforcement agents, and I really don't think they could make a citizen's arrest based on this. The long story short is, based on this video, and from what we see in this video, Midwest Fur Fest has really screwed up at a criminal level, and I hope that they're held to account for it, because they certainly deserve to be. I don't know why Midwest Fur Fest thought that this kind of thing was in any way acceptable, because it is not. And as an aside, this video does corroborate exactly and perfectly with what Magnus Duridian or Rob Schakowsky said. That leads me to believe that Rob is telling the truth here. I do believe Magnus's account on it, because the limited hard evidence that we do have basically confirms everything he's saying. So from what I can see, the truth is totally on his side. Now, as for the Midwest Fur Fest chlorine attack 3 years ago and how Patrick Lake thinks this is Magnus's fault, here's the big question that I have for anyone who believes that at this point in time. And, maybe he was responsible. I don't know. Why hasn't he been arrested? I mean, this is a chlorine bomb in a hotel convention, at a major convention. That's a terrorist attack as far as I'm concerned. It's a massive felony and then some. Why wasn't he arrested? Why wasn't he charged? Why isn't he in jail right now? What could Dogpatch Press possibly know that law enforcement doesn't? Why is Dogpatch saying this? Well, maybe he thinks he knows something that we don't. I do know where he's getting his information from. It doesn't take a super sleuth to figure it out. He got the information from Dio, and Dio got the information from someone who's close to Magnus. I'll just put it that way. But what does that person know that the FBI doesn't? Does that person know anything that law enforcement doesn't know? I don't think so. I really doubt it. And it is a very, very serious thing to come out and accuse just a private citizen of being responsible for a terrorist act. So we'll see what happens. As of right now, I tend to agree with, I tend to believe Magnus's side of the story. And I think if you look at things even-handedly, I think you should probably believe that too. Anyways, one last thing. I do have, my book was rewritten. It's now called Out of the Ruins, and it is once again back up on Amazon, available as a Kindle ebook, and will soon be coming out as a paperback and later on an audiobook too. I invite you to take a look at that at my blog, and links will be provided below.